Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about a story that I came across on social media, much to my dismay, good God. And you know what? There's no preface I could possibly make that's going to prepare you for this one, so let's just get into it. Marlon Wayans explains why his mom is the real reason he never got married. The comedian's mother, Elvira Wayans, died in 2020. For context, when I read all of this, and still now to an extent, I am not familiar with this comedian. I'm not familiar with any of these people, to be clear, so let's just put that in. If there's any crazy context, I tried to look into it, I didn't find anything, but if I missed something contextually, that's why. I have no fucking clue who these people are. Regardless, the reason why I came across this is because there was a viral tweet that said, Marlon Wayans said he never got married because he never wanted his mother to feel jealous of another woman. And someone retweeted it saying, hey, well, that's weird. Well, you'd think that this wasn't controversial because not getting married because you're worried about your mom is, there's a lot going on there, and it certainly is not the norm. So saying it's weird, I don't think is super controversial. I think most people would agree that putting your mom ahead of your own future happiness is a little bit crazy, but let's get into the article and then we'll comment on the rest. Marlon Wayans made a commitment to make his late mother, Elvira Wayans, the number one woman in his life, and he stuck to it. The comedian told the New York Times in an interview published last week that he chose to never get married because he wanted to prioritize his relationship to his mother, who died in 2020 at 81. My mother's death broke me. It shattered me into a million pieces because that was my girl, he said. I never got married because I never wanted my mother to be jealous of a woman. I never wanted my mother to feel second to any woman. When pressed to confirm that his mother was the reason he never got married, Marlon Wayans responded absolutely, before adding she was one of 5 reasons. Mom was very needy, he said. I told my mother on her deathbed, I never got married because I wanted you to be my number one girl. Those were my last words. I said, take that to heaven with you. There's a lot to be said about all of this. I am going to say, I understand having heavy commitment towards your parents. My mom and I are very close. I'm the only person I know who calls their parent every day and has maybe 15 to half an hour calls oftentimes, sometimes shorter, but I have a very close rapport. So I understand what it's like being close to a parent in a sane and healthy way. That being said, I do think we're crossing into the territory of being unhealthy when your parent dictates your life choices. And that goes beyond marriage, relationships, or whatever. If your parent basically makes the executive decisions in your life, like, are you in a relationship? Can you be in a relationship? Stuff like that. I don't think that is healthy. And to be noted, that's different than a parent not liking your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever because whatever reason. That's different. But if, a priori, for no real reason, you're not allowed to have a girlfriend, and I say not allowed in quotation marks, but there's an understanding that your mom has to be so prioritized that there's no other woman, something's not okay. And that's not to speak ill of the dead. I'm not judging her. I'm just saying this rapport for her son is not fair because you need to basically be single even if you're interested in someone. Quick note, I know that the title of this article and what we're talking about is marriage, right? But if your mom doesn't want you to get married or you don't want to get married because you don't want to offend your mom, blah, 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 dating becomes complicated because there are plenty of people who don't date to get married, granted, but a lot of people do, and especially a lot of older people from prior generations, myself included, date to get married. So by saying or by implying or by not wanting your kid to get married or by implying that if he gets married, something bad's going to happen, whatever, you are kind of excluding dating. Because, for example, me, I'd never want to date someone if I knew it was never going to lead to marriage. Like, if I knew it was going to go nowhere, what am I doing? Again, that's not for everyone, but I'm just saying in this particular case, they seem pretty synonymous. Even if you want to date, you have to be so your mom doesn't feel like she's in second place. The relationship you have with your mom versus your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, should be 2 distinctly separate relationships. They shouldn't even be similar, really. So that the concept of not dating someone to protect your mom is already weird, because it's like saying that someone's replacing your mom when your mom shouldn't have had that role in the first place. And I mean, it's by far not the same thing, but if we go with that logic, then technically, and there are plenty of people who live this way, is people ask me, once I became a widow, are you gonna just not ever date again? And while that's a choice some people make, I also don't think that punishing yourself, depending on your stance, punishing yourself because of death of somebody else is going to end well. In the sense of, okay, you're going to make this sacrifice and you're going to be miserable and unhappy if you're the type of person who wants a relationship. For what? For some ideological, weird position you've put yourself in? I don't know. Anyway, Marlon Wayans shares 2 children, sons Kai and Sean, with former longtime partner Angelica Zachary. The White Chicks actor confirmed to the Shade Room in March that he had welcomed a now 1-year-old daughter. The comedian's parents, Elvira and Howell, had 10 children, many of whom are entertainers. Howell Wayans died last year at 86. Marlon Wayans, who famously appeared on In Living Color and The Wayans Bros, is the youngest of his siblings. In 2020, Marlon Wayans paid tribute to his mother on what would have been her 82nd birthday. "You will always be my first love. Happy B-Day, woman. Baby boy misses you," he wrote. I have no particular opinion on a lot of this other than what I said before. I think there is such a thing as being close with your parents, but I do think a lot of people do not do it properly. And that's not me saying, hey, you're doing it wrong, you have to live by my standards. But for most people's standards, your parent should have the position of a parent. Anyone who is so close to their parents that they can't date, we got problems. The same way that I think it's creepy in movies when there's a dad who's so overprotective of his daughter. To a degree, I understand being overprotective because I'd probably be very protective of a kid if I had one. Granted. That being said, you cannot deprive your child of experiences because you want to be the center of attention or because you don't want to be quote unquote forgotten. You're always going to be their parent. That's not going away. You are arguably the most permanent person in their lives. That being said, it's very strange if you want them to basically be celibate on your account. And also, in this particular case, it's confusing because he had a kid with someone, so it's not like he's not dating, which again is weird because what's the difference if you're married to someone? So of course there's the paperwork, the legal paperwork if you're married. There's also a higher commitment, let us say, if you're married as opposed to dating, depending. But if you're having whole-ass kids with women, what's the big diff if you're actually getting married? Arguably, having a kid, once the kid is born, that kid is always going to be yours, and that kid's always going to be a responsibility. Marriage, if it fucks up, obviously some things will forever persist, like your memories or whatever, but you can divorce and have that be done. With a kid, that's not it. So I'm also very confused about the equivalencies here. So getting married is too far, but having a kid isn't? I'm confused. Also because I'm a little bit old school on all of this, but for me, if I was ever to have a kid, there's absolutely no way in hell I'd have a kid not being married. It's not happening. That's not a judgment, but I'm just saying, if you're going to be old school, and if you're going to treat your kid basically like he's a second husband to you or some kind of partner to the point where he has to have this undying allegiance to you to the point where he's not marrying anyone to save your feelings, you'd think that you'd want him to be married and not just have a child out of wedlock, which I know sounds very old school to say, but if we're going through that mindset, it doesn't really make sense because it's already a very old school way of thinking to think, hey, my kid can't marry anyone because I'm here and I need the attention. So I'm confused also as to who was propagating this kind of mindset, whether it was a him thing and he just wanted to do that, which is fair enough, or if it was implied. She didn't tell him, hey, you can never marry anyone, but there's the implication. I don't know. Regardless, I think a lot of this is just very strange. I do think it's unhealthy. And I think at the end of the day, it also fucks up your memory of a parent because a parent stops being a parent when they don't want to see you flourish as a human. And if flourishing for you includes wanting to get married and them just being like, no, are they really on your side? I don't know. And I'm not trying to say anything about this mother because I don't know her. I'm just saying it's odd for so many reasons. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.